Welcome to 11 Bravo. I'm back again with Mr. Lin Maddox. We just went out, we got a little chow. Feeling pretty good now, and Lynn's just graciously returned. He's going to talk a little bit more about his 3 tours in Vietnam, 64, 68, and then came 72, 1972. We were kind of like on our way out.
Yeah, we were winding down for ground troops, but
yeah.
that was when the big armored onslaught came down from the north and started rolling over Quang Tri and Dong Ha, down into Hue. And I got backdoor orders, and backdoor orders mean they were classified, and within a matter of hours I was on a plane and landed in Iwakuni, Japan about 4 in the morning, and was briefed at 8 that morning by the commanding general, and by 4 that afternoon I was sitting in Da Nang, Vietnam. And my mission was to reestablish the intelligence networks as much as I could that had been working with in the 68, 69 era, which I did. And a little later on in the year, the task force, which comprised of the 1st Marine Air Wing, moved on to Thailand, and I stayed behind for filtering the information on over. And as the flights came in from making flights over North Vietnam, they'd land and refuel all in Da Nang. I'd pass the intelligence on, many times to General Day, the commanding general, to go on to Thailand. I was the last Marine counterintelligence, last person out of Da Nang, except for advisors to the ARVN Marines, or to the Vietnamese Marines. ARVN is the Army. I went to Thailand for a short time, assisted in an investigation there, and then went back in the country just north of Saigon, and was there when they signed the peace accords in January of '73. The next day after they signed the peace accords, I was on a plane to Clark Air Force Base, the Philippines, where I assisted in the initial debriefing of the returning POWs. I was actually at the airstrip when the POWs departed.
So that must have been amazing, being a part of that POW return.
Yeah, it was. You know, Operation Homecoming was something to behold. A lot of those folks, Marine counterintelligence also kept the dossiers on the POWs of Navy and Marine Corps people that were held prisoner. And we had intelligence network that was run in North Vietnam, run through my office in Hue City when I was there. And they reported back, so we knew when the prisoners were moved from one camp to another and what happened if one passed on in prison camp and whatever. But when they came back, it was really ironic, because I give Warrant Officer Thomas his pre-flight briefing. He was a naval observer for naval gunfire flying with the Air Force. And he come off the plane there at Clark, and I hollered at him, and he looked over and he says, "Tex Maddox," he says, "damn, you're everywhere."
Wow.
But Ron Deering was on there, and Jim DiBernardo, and these were people that had been in Hue City, which I knew. They were Marines that run the Armed Forces radio TV station, had been prisoners. And there was a lot of these folks that I had carried their dossiers and had never knew anything about them.
Yeah.
But it was rewarding. And then I left early, and I was the courier for the initial debriefings, and I went on up to Iwakuni, packed my gear. I had about 6 hours to pack my gear and get on another plane and grab a set of orders, and come back, and I delivered the initial debriefings to Oak Knoll Hospital in Oakland, to Long Beach Naval Hospital, Camp Pendleton, Balboa Hospital in San Diego. And I had to, depending on where the returning POWs were going for their medical care and their continued debriefing. So, you know, to work on something like that is very touching. It feels like, you know, I'm one of very few people, but we had a number. You got to remember, there was a number of very professional Marine Corps counterintelligence people that were conducting that Operation Homecoming. And I was just a small little part of that. You know?
Right.
And
you guys obviously did a pretty amazing job of it too.
You know, it was so professional, you couldn't believe it.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Lynn Maddox on 11 Bravo. We are back, 11 Bravo, again with Lynn Maddox. Lynn, an amazing career of counterintelligence with the U.S. Marine Corps, 24 years of service with the Marines. He retired in 1979 and went on to a bit of a career in the equine industry, kind of rose to a corporate CEO type person, corporate executive. Very good. And I understand you've been involved recently with schools, going into schools, helping teach the Vietnam story, the history of Vietnam. You were telling me about some junior high school students you worked with. That's very good.
Well, we have a program that's been going on for a few years over in Hemet at West Valley High School, and this was put on by a former teacher, Pat Finch, who's also a member of our VFW, and he was a Vietnam veteran. He spent the entire siege in Quezon from start to finish.
Really?
And we got to remember that the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement kind of overlap each other, and so it was a big time in the history of the United States.
Certainly was.
And so I've always been blessed with being invited over to speak with the kids and take part in this program. And it's very well received. And the kids, I tell you what, I am grandpa to so many kids, we can't count them all. And this is one, and we can show you what some of their
work. Where's our field correspondent, Michelle Ladow? There she is over. Come on in, Michelle. Michelle, you've got those maps.
I sure do.
Yeah, these are from Lynn's junior high class.
Yeah, it's a high school junior history class at Hemet West Valley High.
Yeah.
And their project was, after they studied the Vietnam War, was to do a map of the Tet Offensive of '68 and show all the major battles and show the Ho Chi Minh Trail and all the infiltration routes in. And having been in intelligence and everything, I was blessed with being able to judge the winners and the most accurate, because, you know,
sure.
I was not just a young private in the bush over there for one tour. I was well involved in this.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing what these young kids can do.
Yeah.
And the impact that this has on them.
Do you feel like at the end of the day they really had a much better understanding for Vietnam and just the whole history?
Absolutely. Michelle, show what these kids autograph.
Oh yeah.
Write their thanks.
Look at these
on these
So
maps,
special.
and thank me for my time to come over and visit with them and give them a story. I try not to go into the blood and guts part of it. I go into the more of the humanitarian part of it.
Right.
And it's amazing how many of these kids don't understand that the kids of their age in foreign countries don't have the freedoms that we have, the freedom of education, freedom of religion, the freedom of speech,
Right.
you know, freedom of peaceful assembly and this sort of thing. And it's amazing what they get out of this. Now, this is only one school. I also visited the middle school in Menifee, and those kids, they'll just knock your socks off because they're so good. And a lot of them, their parents are presently serving in the military right now.
Really?
And
Wow.
and then I had the great experience of going to a second grade class there in Sun City, Mrs. McKay's class, for Veterans Day. All these kids in the second grade wrote a thank you letter to the veterans, and it was forwarded to the Winchester Valley VFW Post 4379, and we posted them on the board. We were so impressed with what these second graders did that the commander and the adjutant and myself went back to visit school. Now, I can still get in my dress blues, the same ones I retired in 1979. I had all my medals in. I got there 30 minutes early and became a class assistant, you know, teacher's assistant. And these kids are remarkable. One young boy came up and wanted to wear my hat and get his picture taken because his brother serves in the Marine Corps right now, and he wanted to send a picture to him. And we had a group picture and try to have 22 kids get around you and all hang on you for this picture and ignore our commander and the others who weren't in uniform.
Right.
But it's great to go and work with the schools, and I go every chance I get. You know, I mean, not just talk about Vietnam, but just talk about what veterans do, veterans of all wars, and even present, you know. And get with some of these kids whose daddies and mamas are serving over there right now,
Sure.
and let them know that there's somebody back here that cares about them, you know, and this is very important. Veterans have got to reach out.
Lynn, this is absolutely amazing. It sounds like you're just as busy now as you were back in '68 with counterintelligence.
Well, that's right. I'm staying real busy with the veterans programs.
Very good.
That's great. Speaking of veterans programs, which Lynn is very involved with today, we're going to take a break and come back and talk about that. We're back. And Lynn Maddox, a very, very busy man all your life, and even today, you're very busy with veterans organizations, veterans programs. You've got a lot of stuff going on with the VFW right now.
That's true. I've been a life member of the VFW since '71. I've been a member since '65. And I'm very dedicated to that. And they asked me to chair a number of programs, one being our holiday program. And what we do is we go up to the community, to the churches and the schools, and we find families in need. And we take care of an average, through our post alone, about 30 to 35 families. And we get support from the Marine Corps League out of Temecula, Murrieta. We get San Jacinto American Legion, and the community. They support us. We take care of them. This year we were able to reach out a little further. We adopted 5 families from the lower listed from Camp Pendleton. We got their wish list, shopped, and fulfilled their Christmas wishes. And you should read some of the letters of thanks that we got from that. Mm-hmm. We also take care of the Veterans Home, Veterans Hospital,
Great stuff.
and all that. But we made a cash donation also to the Critically Wounded Council at Camp Pendleton to help buy videos and video games and movies and stuff for those heroes that are recuperating from their wounds at Camp Pendleton.
Right.
And that's just one of the things, and I do a visit periodically. I visited the wounded at Naval Hospital San Diego.
That's great.
And I get a great fulfillment out of that. Having been a combat wounded Marine,
Right.
I can relate to these kids and their spouses. They have young wives that don't understand.
Of course.
And the kids don't understand.
It's vets looking out for vets.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to reach out.
You got to reach out. You mentioned a particular doctor that you had an encounter with just recently.
Well, I was visiting the wounded at Naval Hospital San Diego. My wife was down there for some minor surgery. And I was talking to a young Marine who was wounded and his wife, and they were both like babies to me, you know. And this doctor came over and thanked me for coming and talking to him. Because he says no one can tell it better than those that have been there and done that.
Yeah.
And I had been through exactly what they were going through.
Yeah.
That right there, it made me feel so good.
Yeah.
And I get choked up when I
can
think
see
about
that.
this.
I'm getting choked up with you. That's special.
It's very special. When a doctor would come and thank me,
Yeah.
and all I did was spend a little time, and all veterans can go out there and spend a little time. Veterans help veterans. It's a thing. That's the way it's going to work.
It's where we came from. That's where we got to go.
That's right.
You know? We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back. 11 Bravo. Well, Lynn, it's been a great 3 episodes, and I've really enjoyed it. And just to close out, just talking soldier to soldier here with you, you know, you spent 3 tours in Vietnam from 64 to 73, and all your hard work there, all your dedication that you put into those tours, and all I have to do is just say the date, April 30th, 1975. and it kind of puts a gut-wrenching touch to it all. Let me ask you this, Lynn. If you could sit down with all the families of the troops that are right now in Iraq and Afghanistan, what would you tell them?
Well, I have talked to some of them, and I tell them to have faith. You know, we have a greater power above us than we have in ourselves, and we got to have that hope and that faith. Also, I'm going to tell the families, don't hesitate to contact a veterans organization if you need some help. I know there's a lot of good programs going on the military bases, but veterans are out there ready to help, and we're not a bunch of old cronies that did it and quit. We're still out there for you.
Lynn, thank you so much for joining us here on 11 Bravo Veterans Network. Let's get together again. We can do this again.
Okay.
All right. For 11 Bravo Veterans Network, this is Rick Seaman. See you soon.